created to have some fun together, sharing and singing. So, join and enjoy.
Our love for opera brings us together. Thanks for being with us in this trip.
And today, with the warmest appreciation, I would like to thank people around the world. And before naming the countries from where stats say that you have been following us for almost a year, we're a year old already. So I would really like to share my appreciation with people who are following us through Amazon Music, Spotify, their web browser, Google Podcasts, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Amazon Echo, Stitcher, Chromecast. There are a couple of them. There are some of the listeners whose app is unknown or who have been following us through Android apps or Apple apps. Also, there's people following us through Sonos, the Buzzsprout site where the podcasts actually resides, AntennaPod, Apple Tunes, Roku, GS Streamer, Bose, and there's even people following us through their console, their Microsoft Xbox. Thank you very much. My deepest appreciation for that. And I would also like to thank people and again show my deepest appreciations to the following countries: the United States. Almost 50% of the listeners are in the US. Thank you very much. Followed by the United Kingdom, Mexico, Canada, France, Netherlands, Germany, Brazil, Sweden, Spain, Russian Federation, Australia, India, Malaysia, Italy, Argentina, Japan, South Africa, St. Kitts and Nevis, Austria, Norway, Dominican Republic, the Philippines, Peru, Turkey, Guam, Armenia, South Korea, Kuwait, Ireland, Croatia, Indonesia, Colombia, Denmark, Thailand, Ukraine, Portugal, and Nigeria. As you may be very well aware, it's been already over 3 years of very challenging times, and music has kept us together and will continue to do so. So, my deepest appreciation, I know that on behalf of Katia, her appreciation as well for being with us for this year already. And today we have, if you already saw the title of today's program, you already know that today we're talking about. I have been, and I have to confess one again, yeah, sorry about that, but I have to confess again that I really lack the adjectives to describe my thoughts and emotions for Andrea Lecouvreur. It is not only that I am not a native speaker of English, it is that even in my native Spanish language, I always have problem in finding the right adjectives to describe what an immense opera like Andrea Lecouvreur has brought to our lives, and the incredible music and performances and recordings that we have had around this one of the most grandiose, splendiferous operas ever written by a more or less unknown composer. Maestro Chilea, Francesco Chilea, happens to be not as well known as many other composers. I mean, everybody knows about Mozart, Puccini, of course, Verdi, Rossini, but very few people know about Francesco Chilea, and it happens to be the same case for most or all the composers of this styled the Verismo. Andrea Lecouvreur also falls into that. I am saying Andrea Lecouvreur, which is the name André in French. I need to explain you a little more about that in a second. And going back to my point, very people know that the composer is Francesco Cilea, and fewer know that if he ever composed anything else. So, as we usually say in recent years, he was a one-hit wonder. Excuse me for the comparison, but I wanted to make it clear. Not many people know about Chilea, but many people do know about Andrea Lecouvreur. Andrea Lecouvreur, in its splendidness and grandiosity, it's very few times represented compared to our very much loved Traviata or Madama Butterfly, many others great compositions by other many well-known composers. Adriana Lecouvreur is not that often on stage, and one would think, or one would ask ourselves, why is that, provided that it is such a splendid opera? It resides on a number of reasons, if you allow me to explain. In one hand, it's a little bit long in terms of duration, long in terms of acts. People deal very well with operas that barely last 2 hours with 2 or 3 acts maximum, but we're talking about an opera that has 4 acts, and if you add the intermissions, it can easily go through 3 hours or 3 hours and a half. So not many people in duration, but you have also to consider that singers are on a stage for that amount of time. This opera is a very demanding role. I will be providing more details on each of the tesituras as we walk through each of the acts, but we have to take into account that despite being a splendid composition by Cilea, it has a very complicated libretto to follow. So the same case I did with Le Conte d'Hoffmann, I will not be giving you exact names and details because it will be very easy to make things even more complicated than they actually are. But we will adhere to the most relevant or most well-known pieces of each of the acts. And so, with that being said, let's start our ride with the opening and what actually happens in the first act. The first act of Adriana Lecouvreur, which, if you allow me to say, many sopranos would like to sing it. Not many of them are well suited for the role. Not because it is vocally complex. It is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It is a complex role, but it is the complexity resides in the mix of maturity that the soprano demands in her acting. You will see around the declamation and in the singing. No beginner soprano would make a good performance out of Andrea, and mature soprano is more likely to do it. Also, there is a good number of sopranos who have taken the challenge of singing it. Among them, we can mention, of course, one of the most well-known sopranos of the past century. Of course, we need to mention the very great Renata Tebaldi. We also need to refer to the splendid Magda Olivero, who, in the words of Cilea, was the perfect Adriana. We also have Claudia Muzio, splendid soprano. Renata Scotto, of course. We need to mention Mirella Freni. Mirella Freni was also a splendid Adriana. What about Raina Kawajewska? Also a splendid soprano. Montserrat Caballé as well. Virginia Ziani. As you could notice, great names of sopranos have taken on this venture of singing Adriana Lecouvreur. And as I was telling you, let's move on with what happens in the first act. Who is Adriana in this opera? First of all, Adriana is an actress, and we will have the opportunity 2 times of seeing her as an actress on stage. The first part is the opening, where things go like this.
Everybody, get out! And every tresco is close to delicious. And the August Page return to the Seraglio.
And this acclamation that Mariano helped us in doing that part. Right after that comes the most famous aria in this opera, Io son l'umile ancella. The music that Chilea wrote for the whole opera is so special. I remember that the first emotion I felt when I first watched this opera was that from the very first notes you feel like you're being transported to a different world. A world where there is an actress, there is a count, there is a prince and a princess, but still it feels like very intimate. Chilea's music is like he's talking to you. And right after that declamation by our dear Adriana Lecouvreur, I was telling you, comes a very short, we have to say, this is a very short and a very fine aria, which she opens by saying, Ecco respiro appena. And right after that, she starts with, Io son l'umile ancella, genio creator, ei m'offre la favela, io la diffondo al cor. The singing by Andrea is so delicate, so fine, that she captures the emotion because she's singing this sort of monologue to herself, explaining. She at this point she is rehearsing this part, and she tells, "I am nothing but a servant to the genius who created us all," means God, of course. She describes everything in herself with humility, and as I was telling you, with a very delicate composition, very nice music that Andrea shares with us as her very beautiful soul, and of course her very beautiful singing. The most important part of this Io son l'umile ancella is that you may have heard it in concerts, because of course sopranos would like to bring this to their concerts. We also have to be very sincere and say that most of the times people do not appreciate it, because this when I say that this is a very fine composition, of course sopranos deliver their heart and their voices, but it is not an opportunity to showcase super high notes, super long notes. What the soprano shows here is that fineness in her singing, their extraordinary technique. But people, to be sincere, really do not appreciate that much. This being the only opera that has the only aria that really has transcended Andrea Lecouvreur. If you know the opera and if you know a lot about opera, you're already thinking, Ricardo, you are so very wrong, because there is the two or the parts by the tenor. We'll get there, but so far what we have to understand is that Io son l'umile ancella has transcended the opera, and you can hear it in concerts very often. There is something very particular. Personally, I like the way Montserrat Caballé wraps it up. There is she has, of course, everybody at this point may know that Montserrat Caballé has a fiato, had a breathing technique, an extraordinary breathing technique, which allowed her to do many things. Because the final note by Un soffio la mia voce, un soffio è la mia voce, un soffio è la mia voce, that, I have to mention a couple of things. Right after those phrases that are as if it was slowing down right after mi chiamo fedeltà, and suddenly un soffio la mia voce. My voice is like a whisper. Un soffio la mia voce again. Like a whisper is my voice che al nuovo di morrà. Che al no, besides being an ascending scale, it is written in pianissimi, so triple P. If you already know about music, if not, I can tell you that doing pianissimi on a high note is very complicated, super complicated. So these ascending scales in the no till vo, di, I, and then morrà. It's very difficult because of those triple P required, and right after that, the final note morrà, it's fortissimo, an A in fortissimo. Not fortissimo, sorry, just in forte. And since Montserrat Caballé knew she could do more than that, she does not only does that with her beautiful voice, she sometimes starts from a minuendo and takes a crescendo on the high note to a fortissimo even, until you can't believe it, the length and the volume she acquires. Sometimes in other renditions she goes softer, but the final note seems to last forever. I really would like to invite you to listen to her rendition of it. I am not saying that Tebaldi's, Scottos, or Frenis are or Oliveros are less nicer renditions of this aria, but I really would like to invite you to listen to Montserrat's understanding on how to actually sing it. And what happens right after this aria? Well, right after this aria, we meet the lover of Adriana. Adriana, of course, is the Italian way of saying Adrien Lecouvreur. And Maurizio, which happens to be already an Italian name because he had to be Maurice. But I think that at some point the librettist and Chilea agreed that Maurice did not sound well or didn't make much sense in the composition and music, so they changed it to Maurizio, an Italian name. So Maurizio is the Conte di Sassonia, joins Adriana and sings one of the most beautiful arias for a tenor. La dolcissima effigie sorridente. At this point, I would like to mention that there are several parts where Francesco Chilea gives either to Adriana or to Maurizio this warm, expansive notes of expression that really transport us to understanding that they really love each other. And so Maurizio says, referring to Adriana, of course, La dolcissima effigie, which again starts in double P, pianissimi. La dolcissima effigie sorridente, in te rivedo della madre cara, della mia patria dolce preclara. If you notice, even though this is an aria, this is more like a dialogue, like you are telling your beloved one and you are speaking to her with that admiration that the music brings to your voice. Laura rivevo che m'apri la mente. Bella tu sei, you are so beautiful, come la mia bandiera delle pugne fiammante, en trova pur tu sei gioconda come la chimera della gloria, promessa al vincitor. And then again, bella tu sei. Now it is not pianissimo, it is only piano. Insisting, bella tu sei Gioconda, how beautiful you are. And Adriana, in the Comosa, the score says, feeling so emotions by the words she's hearing from her beloved Maurizio, replies, Ciel, quante belle frasi, what beautiful words you're telling me. Mi fa poeta il tuo amor, replies Maurizio. Of course, I am a poet because of your love. There is a very small interruption where Adriana says, il vostro ammazzamento, and Maurizio replies, parliamo di cosa lieta. Let's talk about something nicer, something happier. But Adriana insists, ed il ministro, e il conte di Sassonia? And Maurizio says, ho tentato, promette non mantiene. And Adriana wants to help him, so she says, conoscerlo vorrei, I want to meet him. Maurizio says, perché? Senza tradirmi, piegarlo ben saprei in favor vostro. Maurizio says, grazie, è un uomo pericoloso. Adriana replies, lo so, tutte le donne l'amano. We have to say that at this point, Adriana doesn't know that she's in fact already talking to the Count of Sassonia, because that is Maurizio disguised, who is talking to her. So somehow she's saying that she will ask for a favor to the Count to support Maurizio, because Maurizio is supposed to report to Il Conte when he is actually the Count himself. So he says, io son geloso. Adriana replies, fanciullo, e ben di me parlateli, che fate? Entrar, devo in scena. So Adriana says, I have to leave. And this very short, again, Dolcissima Fige that has turned into a duet, now also takes us to a very beautiful duet that has, again, this expansive, warm, very emotional lines where they exchange their thoughts. And she says, tu m'ascolterai, says Adriana, tu m'ascolterai. Because remember that she's about to go to on scene. She will be performing that night. Maurizio replies, t'ascolterò Adriana, come un devoto ascolta la divina parola. And I will hear you, because I will hear you as a devoto, a devout person, listens to the divine word. Again, insist, bella tu sei gioconda, sì, t'ascolterò. And when he says t'ascolterò, he has the word, the voice of Adriana joining his, saying, una tua pura lagrima, diamante d'amor. A pure tear from you is a diamond of love. So the two of them say love at the same time, reaching an A. And what it is very interesting here, and if you have followed us in the past, you know that I really detest when singers keep the notes for much longer than written, only for the purpose of the fan service of providing people with a high note only to show off they can do it. But in this case, I will contradict myself and tell you that, in fact, giving this warm, enveloping music by Chilea, when they both said, they end that note, and the music is, sorry to insist, so warm, so it makes so much sense that they do not want to be separated, that all they leave us together is what that phrase of love. with voices that we wished could last for longer. But now it is time to talk about the princess. The princess happens to be the antagonist of our Adriana, and she's the princess de Villon, married to the Prince of Villon. So I must tell you in advance that she's unloyal to her husband, the Prince of Villon, and it turns out that she happens to have been, she was in the past, a lover of Maurizio himself. So, and she's, so she doesn't want to let Maurizio go. She's still holding on to him, but Mauricio doesn't want to know about the Princess of Villon because now he's in love with Adriana. And so, in this presentation aria, we have a tremendous Princess de Villon that starts with a acerba volata dolce tortura lentissima agonia rapida offesa vampa gelo. And so, with those tremendous words, we learn about the Princess of Villon. Because with a yell, with a tremendous shout, he says, acerba voluttà, dolce tortura, lentissima agonia, rapida offesa, vampa, gelo. Tresores mania paura, ad amoroso sen torna la tesa. All her words are so carried with this. If you allow me to say that, not every mezzo, because she's a mezzo, not every mezzo can sing the Princess of Villon. This is such a tremendous opening. We can really hear that this woman is burning in passion. Her emotions consume her. She goes from high, powerful notes, better when a more dramatic mezzo sings this role, and moves to a second movement within her aria. Please allow me or forgive me if you're a purist of music and want to say that this is not actually a movement. There is a change of mood in her aria, because right after that opening, telling us how desperate, how frenetic she is, now moves to something more lyrical in the sense of a way of expressing her love and emotions. And she says, ogni eco, ogni ombra nella notte incesa contro l'impaziente alma congiura fra dubbiezza ed issio, tutta sospesa l'eternità nell'attimo misura. Now, the actual change in the music, you can hear the violins going to this rhythm, more like affrettato, much faster, where she asks herself, con ansia, says the score, con ansia, verrà m'obblia s'affretta o corsi pente ecco e rigiunge no dei fine il verso misto al sospir d'un arbore dormente. Now, much slower, in a much quieter mood. At this point, let me tell you that the aria for the Princesse de Villon is very long, and with these changes of mood, it's a very challenging aria for any mezzo-soprano. So goes to a more contenuto part and says, O vagabonda, stella d'Oriente, no final part of Scorta il mio amor, at this point, the mezzo has been so carried away that a very typical way of wrapping up this aria, right after Sailing on Mars, which of course the mezzos like to keep for as long as they can. Sailing on Marte, scorto il mio amor. At this point, of course, it's believable again. I need to contradict myself again with not keeping the notes for much longer than written. But after this volcano of emotion that is the Princess of Guillaume, one can really believe that she has kept that love, that final word, love, for as long as she can. What happens next? In the following act, we have one of the most interesting duets by the Princess de Guillaume and Adriana Lecouvreur, whose details I will not provide you. But I was telling you that this is a very interesting duet because this is a confrontation duet, not lovely and nicely written as it is the case of, if you recall, Ana Bolena and the duet they have. This is different, of course, we are talking about Verismo. So in this confrontation, we have, and by listening to their voices, and especially when we have two great singers, a great mezzo and a great soprano, and we listen to what they are actually doing, because at this, what I can tell you is that Adriana will help the princess escape. Remember that the princess is unloyal to the prince. She wants to be still attached to Maurizio. Maurizio does not love her any longer, but Maurizio is now with Adriana. And the Princess of Guillaume is so jealous about finding out who the lover is. She, at this point, when she's helped to escape so that the prince will not catch her, she doesn't know that it is Adriana, her rival, but suspects. Aprite, apritemi signora, nel nome di Sassonia. L'avrei giurato ancora che volete. And so Adriana says, salvarvi, e come? Ogni cammino è tolto. All the ways out are closed. Questa chiave vi schiuderà il giardino, un passo e siete libera. This key that I am providing to you will help you escape. Before I forget, this duet happens in darkness, so that the opera can justify that despite being together in this duet, they still do not know each other. So the princess does not know that she is being helped by Adriana, and Adriana herself doesn't know that she is helping the princess. And so the princess accepts the key, and Adriana still tells her, ma scendere non vista vi conviene, ma questa casa ignota, il mio consiglio incerto, io la conosco, answers the princess. No, I know this house. Oh, un uscio segreto è qui. The suspicion among the two women. So the princess says, eccolo, aperto. She manages to open her way out before being caught as being unloyal. Ma voi chi siete? Asks the princess. Che importa? Andate, replies Adriana. Doesn't matter, just leave. Troppo vi devo, insists the princess. I owe you. Adriana says, dimenticate, forget it. Vorrei vedervi, says the princess. I would like to see you. Adriana says, non è prudente. Ma questa voce l'udì sovente, says the princess. I have heard this voice in the past. Who is this? Duchessa, siete voi? Asks the princess. Are you Duchess? Adriana says, no. Perché celarvi? Why are you hiding? L'attimo fugge, cresce il periglio. Danger is growing. You should be leaving. In vol consiglio per me qu'il porse. Chi mi confida tutto, replies Adriana. Badate, questa è una sfida. Perché, signora? Forse un delitto? The princess says, ma chi a Maurizio dava un tal dritto? E da voi chi dunque? Replies Adriana. Because the princess has asked, how does it come that Mauricio gave such permissions? And what about yours? Asks Adriana. Di nominarlo come un fratello. How it turns out that you're calling the Prince of Sasonia, Maurizio himself. Why do you call him by his first name, Maurizio? Who gave you permission to do that? A mutualiste subia, parlate, la vostra mano trema. Adriana says, l'amate, you love him, with a yell. And the princess says, sì, con l'ansia, con l'impeto ardente di chi sente. Remember that the princess of Guillon is such a volcano. Primamente di schiudersi il cor, egli è mio, l'amor suo m'appartiene, chi mai viene le catene su il dolce a tentar. Maurizio, he is mine, his love belongs to me, so who dares to challenge it? Adriana says, io son sua per l'amor che è più forte della sorte. The princess says, egli è il sol che raccende, rischiara l'alma ignara nella amara sua notte crudel. Insisting on how much Mauricio means to her, to the princess. And they, in the confrontation, says, nell'amara sua notte crudele, ti scopro, says the princess. In this bitter, cruel night, I will uncover you. Adriana insists, voi chi siete? Who are you? Still not knowing that it is the princess. And the princess replies, son possente! I am a powerful woman. And Adriana replies, non temete! I'm not afraid of you. Ti disprezzo, ti calpesto, replies the princess with a very deep hatred for the woman who is challenging her for the love of Maurizio. Mi salvo, replies Adriana. I'm saving you. And the princess says, non più, not anymore. Mio marito. The prince is arriving. El principe, restate. Presto dei lumi. Molti lumi scendete. Dunque, fuggita, vile. So the act wraps up, or this ends this confrontation as the princess is running away, escaping, so the prince does not know that she has been in the house of Maurizio, the lover she used to have. As we have reached the third act, we are having the opportunity, if we can call it opportunity, Adriana will confirm that her rival for the love of Maurizio is the princess of Guillon herself, and the princess of Guillon herself will know that her rival is Adriana. And having understood that, Adriana makes a declamation scene in Fedra. She's invited by the guests to do so. Remember that Adriana is an artist. She's invited to portray it, and this is what is going to happen. This scene will be, all the words will be addressed to the princess de Guillon, offending the princess in front of everybody out there. And with these words, Adriana will sign what her future will be.
Just having about this day, what haven't I done? Soon comes my husband, and we hit my son, the witness, he, of my ancestors' flame, the witness of my mother idol's shame. I stare my bosom heaven with the false signs, and burnished tear fled from my lustful eyes. Didn't you that for his father's honor he will hide from my will and love some family? O lesser king, his father, shame be? Or must the honor his conveys from me? Silent whereby I know my perfidy, yet I dustful faced woman not I am I, who can be repaired in their disgrace, with not a blush upon this precious face.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You have witnessed the intense emotions that Adriana conveys in this scene. This is what keeps me on my toes every time I hear Adriana Lecouvreur. The powerful emotions by the Princess of Guion and the extraordinary actress that we need in Adriana to make this scene believable, offending the Princess de Guion in front of everybody because Adriana knows what she's talking about. The princess knows what she's talking about. People look at the two of them like, what is going on? Why is Adriana looking at the princess that way? Something very horrible will be happening in the fourth act. The fourth act will open with those memories, with that motif that will eventually lead us to the death of Adriana. Adriana will be murdered, in fact. Those notes go like ton, 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 ton. In a way, there is darkness in those notes because they are telling us in advance that Adriana will die. And why will she die? She will die because the princess has sworn that she will take revenge on Adriana, not only for being offended in front of everybody, but for having taken the love of Maurizio from hers. She will end up sending flowers, violets in fact, to Adriana and having put in the flowers a new poison to which it is reference is made on the previous act. There is this new poison, and this is the poison that the Princess de Guion will use to kill Adriana. So Adriana receives those flowers, those very beautiful flowers, and there is the second aria by Adriana, a very lovely one, not as famous as Io son l'umiliancella, but having that in mind, those notes that open the act and now open the aria again, ton, 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 until Adriana starts singing to those beautiful flowers. Poveri fiori, gemmes le prati, por ieri nati. Oggi monenti, qual giuramenti, zinfido cor. If you notice, again, the singing of Adriana is delicate. Of course, to appreciate it even better, you have to listen to it in the voice of one of the beautiful voices of the sopranos that have portrayed Adriana, and goes ahead like in a monologue. L'ultimo bacio, o il bacio primo, ecco suave forte bacio di morte, bacio d'amor. Tutto è finito col vostro lezzo voi il cisprezzo con voi dal giorno senza ritorno cessi l'error finito. And so, with that, very short, because as you could have noticed, it is also a very short aria where she shows only her thoughts and appreciation towards those very beautiful flowers that have been sent to her, of course, without knowing that having breathed the nice sensation of the smell of the flowers, she has smelled the poison as well. Of course, she falls ill. The act and the opera itself wraps up with a duet by Maurizio and Adriana, of course, a love where they would like to keep planning their lives, but it will just not be possible. Adriana is paying her last minutes of life, and as she dies on stage, fortunately, besides the love of her life, her dear Maurizio, she dies by saying, "Sciolta dal dolo, io voglio come una bianca colomba. Leaving all this pain behind, I fly like a white dove. Stanca al suo chiaror." Now heading to the brightness. And then there is this music by Maestro Chilea. Ta-da-dun, ta-da-dun, ta-da-dun. Maurizio will shout, "Adriana, morta, morta." And the curtain falls down. Thank you very much for having joined me on this Parlons de Adriana Lecouvreur for today's episode, this splendid grandiosity opera written by Maestro Francesco Celea. I hope to see you soon.